Good day, everyone, especially to my thesis advisor, Dr. Emeline R. Villanueva, to the panelists, the chairperson and members. I am Desulmay F. Andrade, a mild English student and a secondary school teacher at Libo-on National High School. I'll be presenting my research proposal entitled The Implementation of Campus Journalism Act of the Philippines, or the RA 7079, in the Division of Romblon. Campus journalism has been practiced over a decade. It has become an avenue to the youth to hone their skills, to be disciplined, and to think critically, and to be the upholders of freedom of the press even at their young age. The impact that it brings to students is undeniably significant, especially on their thoughts and actions, because they are given the opportunity to put into actual practice their knowledge and skills in journalism. It functions as a way of strengthening their ethical values and of emboldening their creative and critical thinking. In the Philippines, campus press is regarded as a concrete manifestation of the students' democratic rights and a tangible expression of press freedom in campus. Through it, students are able to practice their rights to freedom of expression and information, rights that are protected by the 1987 Constitution. However, campus journalism has faced challenges as the times have changed, particularly on the part of student writers, school paper advisors, and journalism coaches. Before, the issue was into giving support of the promotion of campus journalism to institutions. That is why Republic Act 7079, or the Campus Journalism Act of 1991, was passed into law for the protection and the practices of campus journalism in schools. Then, the Department of Education implemented the special program in journalism in 2009 to ensure that all people involved will commit and to carry out shared responsibilities in order to achieve program objectives. In the Division of Romblon, Libo-on National High School has offered special program in journalism in 2018 as one of its curricula to hone the journalistic skills and competencies of student writers and to strengthen free and responsible journalism. And through the efforts of school paper advisors, different journalism programs and policies have been implemented, which were participated by many schools in elementary and secondary, including press conferences from school level up to national level of competitions. Moreover, the Romblon Association of Campus Paper Advisors, or the RACPA, a SEC-registered association composed of elementary and secondary school paper advisors, has been organized. This aims to capacitate and empower the school paper advisors and journalism coaches with knowledge and skills in campus journalism. Nevertheless, while trying to resolve the problems regarding its implementation, there are some lawmakers who tries to propose a bill to repeal the Campus Journalism Act because of its weaknesses. And one of the flaws discussed is about the funding of the school publication. There is no particular source of funding for the publication. The term used "may" implies the appropriations for the student publications being discretionary, and that is according to ARA of 2010. In connection with this, the voluntary scheme and the no collection policy of the DepEd for the school publication have a direct effect in publishing the campus paper due to no specific stipulated in the Act. With regards to the implementation of the Journalism Act, it remains a doubt for campus publications in the country. Recent studies show that many of the provisions of RA 7079 are not yet fully implemented due to the editorial board's lack of knowledge. Additionally, some student journalists could not fully exercise the functions as stated in the Act, for they are controlled by their publication advisors who are at the same manner are under the management and administration. Furthermore, the student publication advising task or assignment shall supposed to be considered as one teaching or workload based on the Act. But some publication advisors are still in doubt as to its practice. Those phenomena motivated the researcher to assess the implementation of the Campus Journalism Act of the Philippines. This study is primarily anchored on Edward Lee Thorndike's connectionism theory, particularly the law of exercise, which states that connection is strengthened with use and weakened with disuse. Furthermore, constant repetition of a response strengthens the connection with the stimulus, while disuse of a response weakens it. In view of campus journalism, constant practice or repetition of its implementation of RA 7079 in public secondary schools in the Division of Romblon by school paper advisors is valuable in learning the act of responsible journalism. On the evaluation of the implementation of RA 7079, it is based on system theory which was proposed by Bertrand Lotfi of 1940. It explains that in evaluating a certain policy or program, the focus should be on its completeness rather than focusing on the single uniqueness of the system. It is a multi-part interrelating element that are open to interaction with its environment. In an organization, there is always an entity that is dependent on the nature of the system. In the study, the parts of the system are the Republic Act 7079 or the Campus Journalism Act of 1991 and its implementing rules and regulations, which will be the reference in assessing the provisions of the said act. The programs and projects that were developed to support this will be evaluated and the feedbacks will be directed to the curriculum planners for review and the creation of new policies for the further improvements of the Campus Journalism Act and programs for the succeeding implementation. The data processing cycle, which consists of input, processes, and output, will be the pattern outline of the study. The input consists of respondents' profile and status in handling campus journalism, DepEd's implementation of the Campus Journalism Act and its rules and regulations, and last, problems encountered and the respondents' experiences in the implementation practices of campus journalism. For the process, it consists of online distribution of survey questionnaires and interview, statistical treatment of data, interpretation and analysis on assessment result, which will be the basis for training, programs, and projects for campus journalism, and applying the recommendations to address the identified problems and improve the implementation. For the outputs, we can have the school paper advisor status in handling campus journalism in the Division of Romblon, and the training design for school publication advisors and campus journalists toward effective implementation of Campus Journalism Act. The major objective of the study is to assess the implementation of the Campus Journalism Act or the RA 7079 among the public secondary schools in the Division of Romblon. Specifically, it intends to 1. Describe the profile of the school paper advisors in terms of age, sex, highest educational attainment, years in handling campus journalism, background in journalism, and the medium of campus journalism they are handling. 2. To determine the level of compliance of the respondents on the implementation of the provisions of the Campus Journalism Act in terms of editorial policies, student publication, editorial board, in terms of selection procedure, duties and responsibilities, and security of tenure. Publication advisor in terms of selection procedure, workload, duties and responsibilities, selection procedure, and security of tenure. Training, workshop and seminar, and funding and appropriations. 3. To identify the problems encountered by the respondents in the implementation of the Campus Journalism Act of 1991 in terms of publication, financing of the publication, advisor, selection of staff members, and press conferences, training, and seminars attended. 4. To analyze the experiences of the respondents on the implementation practices of campus journalism in their respective schools. And 5. to develop intervention or strategies to address the problems encountered by the respondents and to ensure the effective implementation of Campus Journalism Act in the Division of Romblon. The assumptions of this study are: 1. The provisions of Campus Journalism Act of the Philippines or the RA 7079 were not fully implemented in the public secondary schools in the Division of Romblon. 2. Some of the provisions of the Campus Journalism Act of the Philippines or the RA 7079 were revised by the public secondary schools in the Division of Romblon. The findings of this assessment study on the implementation of the Campus Journalism Act will benefit the following individuals on their own respective fields: lawmakers, curriculum planners and developers, Romblon Association of Campus Paper Advisors or the RACPA, school principals or the administrators, school paper advisors and the editorial board members, students, parents and the community, the local government unit officials, and the future researchers. For the scope and the limitation of the study, its focus will be on the assessment of the Campus Journalism Act implementation based on the provisions stated in Republic Act 7079 in terms of the policy formulation, student publication, editorial board, publication advisor, training, workshop and seminar, and funding and appropriations. The respondents of the study will be the school publication advisors, campus journalists, and the school funding administrators, which will be randomly drawn from the 13 districts in the Division of Romblon. And this study will be conducted in the academic year 2021 to 2022. In this study, the researcher will use mixed method approach, including both quantitative and qualitative methods. The quantitative descriptive survey method will be used to assess the implementation of the provisions stated in Campus Journalism Acts of 1991 among the public secondary schools in the Division of Romblon. For further improvement of the study, the researcher will also use a qualitative approach in which she will conduct an interview to school paper advisors as the informants. The answer that will be given by the informants will be used to validate the results of the data that will be gathered in the quantitative method through the online survey questionnaire and vice versa. The study will be conducted in the different districts in the Division of Romblon, such as Alcantara, Banton, Kahidjukan Magdiwang, Concepcion, Corcuera, Looc, Udiongan North, Udiongan South, Romblon, San Agustin, Calatrava, Santa Maria, San Andres, San Fernando, and Santa Fe, San Jose districts. During the school year 2021 to 2022, this research will be carried out. The samples of the study will be 39, comprising school paper advisors, campus journalists, and school funding administrators representing the 13 districts, as shown in the diagram. The respondents will be selected using the stratified random sampling, where the population can be partitioned into several strata or subgroup to ensure a representative of each group in the sample. The sample will be randomly selected from each strata or district. Since the researcher will use a mixed method, the quantitative and the qualitative approach, two different instruments will be used in finding answers to the objectives of the study. For the quantitative approach, this study will use survey questionnaires which will be administered online. For the qualitative approach, the researcher will conduct interviews, online or face-to-face, depending on the status of IATF restrictions and the location of the respondents. The first questionnaire is adopted from Cervantes 2020, and this will be used for the level of compliance of the secondary schools on the stipulated items in the Campus Journalism Act to be answered by school publication advisors, campus journalists, and the school funding administrators. To determine the level of compliance, the researcher will use the 3-point Likert scale. The second questionnaire is also an adapted questionnaire from Natividad 2019, and this is about the problems encountered in the implementation of the Campus Journalism Act, which will be answered by the school paper advisors. In this part, there will be enumerated possible answers to be chosen by the respondents freely, which will be correspondingly applied to their situation. And to corroborate and cross-analyze the answers of the respondents in the survey, the researcher will conduct an interview using the self-made guide questions for the informants. The answers that will be gathered will be recorded with the permission of the participants. These interview guide questions, which are made by the researcher, are subject for validity testing. After the researcher have successfully reached the number of respondents needed in the study, the data will be immediately tabulated using sample mean and the frequency and percentage distribution. For ethical consideration, this study will follow informed consent rules. This will ensure that all the individuals involved will voluntarily participate in the research with full knowledge of relevant risks and benefits, and lastly, the respect for confidentiality and privacy. To protect the informants' identities, they will remain unknown, and in the interviews, their names will be replaced with aliases. The informant's answers will be presented in the matrices that will be filtered by the researcher. The details which can identify the informants will be omitted in the matrices for security purposes. With the effective implementation of Campus Journalism Act in schools, students develop self-awareness on the rights and expressing of their ideas and opinions.